And we are live.
Hello, welcome to our second episode of Fun with Films. As always, I am Paul, and I'm here with my co-host and good friend, Pascal.
Yes, so nice. So, Paul, it's been 4 weeks to the day. Are you pleased to be back?
Yes, I'm surprised we got back for a second show.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, this is so good. Now, can we begin by thanking all the people who have been supporting us as well? We've had some lovely well dones and thank yous. We've got some really, really nice feedback as well about how to improve the production of the show. So we're just so pleased to be back for what we've called now the monthly video magazine. So every month we're going to do a long form bit of content. We're going to be celebrating the work of filmmakers and our passion for all that wonderful content on the big and small screens. But we have plans for also some more impromptu and short form content, Paul.
Yes, we do, and it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
So this is called Fun with Films. We, essentially, Paul and I, have been friends for 20 years. We love the world of cinema, and we keep talking about it a lot. And this happened really because, we're talking on the phone, saying we were missing going to the movies, we're missing being with each other and our friends. And those conversations went on for a very long time. I used to get a very sore arm trying to keep on the phone held.
Yeah.
And then I kind of came up with the idea, maybe we should record this one day.
I thought he was mad, but here we are.
So what we're going to do is talk to you today about trailers. We're going to talk about movies to watch. We're going to be asking questions. We have a quiz for you at the end. But also, a big announcement, we are now on YouTube. So whilst we are live today, and you'll be able to watch it live, or you can watch it on replay on Facebook, next week we'll also be publishing the episode on YouTube with some time stamping, so you can fast forward to your preferred kind of segments, and you can also leave comments, suggestions for future episode, because we're already talking today about episode 3, which will take place next month.
I don't think we should wait a month. This with between us is as we do all the time. We talk on the phone. We talk when we get together, and all we do is talk for hours about films and martial arts films. So we just thought we might as well record it, and that was the start. So anyway, Pascal, it's time. It's time that we find out what the Watchmen have been watching this week.
Okay, so this originally was called the P-Men, as some of you may know from last month. Paul and Pascal started with the letter P. We wanted to be the P-Men, like the X-Men, but we realized that wasn't sounding so great after all. So.
I thought it sounded awesome.
So we are the Watchmen. We're here to tell you what we've been watching over the past 4 weeks that got us excited, and suggest maybe you should be watching it too.
Yeah, it's kind of what we think you should watch.
That's what the Watchmen are all about. We have got your back. So, starting with your first recommendation of 3. Paul.
Okay, we're going to go to Netflix, which is one of my favorite online platforms, and the show Godless. Wow. Yeah, it was one of those. Strangely, I wasn't expecting much because I'm a big fan of Westerns, and not many people get it right these days. I love classic Westerns and things like Open Range, and with the fantastic Kevin Costner and Robert Duvall.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It's not easy to get it right and to do it well, and this blew my socks off. Absolutely blew my socks off. 7 episodes, I believe. It's kind of a mini-series. And the acting is first class. The sets are first class. It's based on actual events of a mining accident in a town. I think there was a town called LaBelle, but it never had a mining accident, but towns close by did. So a lot of the men are actually killed, and the towns are essentially run by women, standing in for the men. And then sometimes they were prey to outlaw gangs or people just moving in to try and take over the town. And what we have in Godless is we have the town of LaBelle with the fantastic cast of ladies trying to kind of fill the shoes of the sheriff and this, that, and the other. So they're finding their feet in that kind of world. And then you've got the outlaw gang led by Jeff Daniels, which a career high performance. He just personifies evil in this. It's amazing. He's looking for his protege, Jack O'Connell, the young English actor, who has left the gang, and he ends up in rebel, and basically the whole thing just explodes towards the end in one of the greatest shootouts I have ever seen put on film. It's amazing. What do you think?
Well, I mean, you were really whet my appetite, and I love, the subtitles. So Godless, welcome to no man's land. It's got so many different meanings because, as you've said, because of the mining accident, those ladies have to survive. And of course, in a world that is dominated by men and violence, they have to either adapt in so many different ways.
And they do in it too.
Yeah, and some of the characters that you've described, they surprise you. So, I mean, Jeff Daniels, who perhaps, I don't think I've seen him do a role that sinister in the past, and clearly
it's kind of like, yeah, why? He is amazing. Michelle Dockery is brilliant in this, and Merritt Wever, I believe, won an Emmy for her role, and every single time she is on screen, she's captivating. There's not one performance that's bad. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 in it, who is one of the last remaining men in this town. He's got a problem with his eyesight, so he's kind of lost confidence in himself, so he has his own redemption story. Just gold from start to finish of this show. Well, please watch it.
Thank you. And what I love about it is that it's a mini-series. That is to say, that's it. You watch it, all the 6 and 7 episodes, and you may go back to it, in fact, but you don't have to try and catch up 5 or 6 seasons if you're a little behind. All right. Well, I discovered a little gem on Amazon Prime called Monsters of Man. Ooh. And this is something that literally has been under the radar. As you can tell from the official poster, it was released online on the 8th of December 2020, last year. But it only appeared recently, certainly for me, in the UK, about a few weeks ago. It's been on my watch list forever. Keep putting it off because I was watching things like Lucifer or whatever. And oh my God, it's like the ultimate kind of ingenuity of indie filmmaking, but the appeal and the impact of a blockbuster. So the premise is a kind of illegal activity combining the CIA, some AI, and some robot engineers who are trying to prove by sending 4 robots into Cambodia and Thailand that they can do a better job than humans by catching bad guys. And they are sent in a village. Those 4 robots are sent in a village to essentially kill drug dealers. But unfortunately, they get it wrong. The village is also occupied by innocents. And you've got then this crazy cat and mouse chase between the robots. And there's a little twist, which I won't share because it's going to spoil the story. You've got the tech team riddled with guilt. You've got, obviously the CIA with Neal McDonough, who is just wonderful in the role.
He's good in everything.
He didn't do everything, he can do it, literally not to do much, and he's amazing. You've got obviously the inventors, the creators of the robots, but then again, the robots. Oh my God, the way they move, the way they kind of move around. They remind me a bit of the sinister side of Terminator, when finally, the android is revealed.
Yeah.
But it feels to me, when I was watching it, you can't help but think, it's so good. How did they do that? It's a bit like, remember District 9?
Yes, yeah. And Chappie, yeah.
Chappie. So when you watch it, you can't quite believe your eyes because the motion and the movements are so good. And in a way, they managed to give those machines character of sort. And they make wonderful use of the natural landscape of the jungle, but also some of the urban scape as well. And honestly, by the time it's finished, you kind of go, my goodness, that was really, really good.
How many episodes?
Just one. So it's one film. There's a hint. There's a hint that there could be a sequel at the very end. A bit of little things. So I'm just quickly looking at my notes. Mark Toia, if that's his name, the director, and his team have done an amazing job. And again, to me, it's the idea of it's an indie film, but it hasn't got the flows. Sometimes you have to forgive independent production, and we love this. Paul and I love independent production. But this film really, really stacks up and deserves, therefore, more viewers. So Monsters of Man is my selection.
Anybody in it that we know?
Not many, apart from Neal McDonough and a couple of the actors being chased by the robots, which I think helps with believing in the story.
Yeah. So a standout performance apart from Neal McDonough?
Actually, I have to say the robots.
Yeah.
It's just,
Oscar for the robots.
It's just the movements and how they've managed to create, them and the design. It's just outstanding.
Alrighty.
All right, over to you. What's your second selection?
What's next? I think it is What If over on Disney Plus.
I don't know much about this.
Oh man, being a massive Marvel fan as I am, I know this comes from a backdated comic, and they posed the question from the Watcher: what if this scenario played out different, and then let's tell that story. And it was a lot of different stories back in the day based on this what if premise. And I think it's just absolutely beautiful the way they've brought this back to the modern world. And this is the first Marvel Cinematic Universe TV show. So what they've done in the first one is they've created the premise, the first episode. What if something happened to Steve Rogers? He gets injured maybe, or something happens. I won't give too much away. And Peggy Carter somehow is given the superhero serum. And she becomes Captain Carter.
Okay.
And that's what if. And then what would happen? How would the Marvel Universe then change based on this principle? So it could be a what if, kind of within our universe, or it could be in the Marvel multiverse, what if. So the animation, as you can see by the picture, is absolutely stunningly gorgeous. One of my big problems with the animated Star Wars was the animation just really wasn't very good for an adult. Stories were good, animation wasn't. This is beautiful. You can watch it and it's almost human, the animation. It's just coloured right.
To your point, I would happily put this on a wall as a poster. Yeah.
Every element of it, but there's a tongue-in-cheek humour behind the animation, and the amount of Marvel voice actors and actresses that have come back to reprise their roles, it is just amazing. And I loved episode 1. A lot of people reviewed it on IMDb quite poorly, episode 1, but have since gone on to say 2, 3, 4 were great. I loved episode 1 from the get-go. I thought it was amazing. And Peggy kicks ass, Peggy Carter, Captain Carter. She really kicks ass in this. It's funny, it's warm, it's well done, and it's so interesting. So just a quick heads up, episode 2, I've got my notes just to make sure it's right. I think there's 5 episodes right now. Okay. If you love anything Marvel, watch it. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. Episode 2 is what if T'Challa, Black Panther, became Star-Lord? How would things change? Wow. And just in that episode, we have Thanos, we have Taserface, we have Yondu, we have, just characters on top of characters, and the story is fantastic.
So how long are the episodes, roughly?
32 minutes.
Okay.
You burn through them. Absolutely burn through them because they're so good. Episode 3 is what happens if the Avengers were assassinated.
You can't do things like that.
And it's very, very clever. Who is the assassin? How is Nick Fury going to find? It's brilliant. Episode 4, I'm a total fanboy here. Episode 4, what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? I haven't seen that one yet myself, so I can't comment. But people are saying it is the best episode. And the last one, I think, that has just come out, and I hope to God this one's going to be my favourite because it is my favourite comic from this era, is the Marvel Zombies comic. What if zombies overrun and you've got Captain America who's now a zombie, and can't wait. But it's beautifully filmed, beautifully scripted, beautifully voice acted. It's fantastic. Watch it.
Super. Do you know, I was nervous about it and you've changed my mind, so
you'll love it.
Thank you very much for all that. Okay, another selection from Amazon Prime, and this is a really lovely one. I discovered, again by accident, that Amazon Prime has got the right to many 80s and 90s Hong Kong movies. And this is a Chinese ghost story.
That takes me back.
Oh, that takes you back. Honestly, just as you play, because I'm thinking, is it the film that I'm thinking of? It starts You hear the music, you hear the song, you see the young Leslie Chung, who plays the clerk and the debt collector, going through the forest and to the village. And if you've not seen the Ghost Story, Chinese Ghost Story, please watch it with your family. It's just wonderful. It's fun, but also it gives you an insight into a different culture, about how they see the other world, how they see their ghosts and their demons and so on. A culture that is fascinating in that view. But also, of course, there will be martial arts move. There will be the wuxia, which is the kind of the flying through the forest, which you see in Crouching Tiger and Hidden Dragon. The Zhou Wang, who plays the ghost, is of course adorable, but the comedy element is also very, very strong. So this is just one that I picked from a long list of Kung Fu and Hong Kong movies that are on Amazon.
What else? Stand out.
You've got 1, 2, 3. You've got pretty much all the Snakes and Eagle Shadows. You've got all that kind of old school.
Drunken Master.
Drunken Master is not on there, but because the rights are still held by others. But certainly Beardy is there. You've got Long Kai-Yan.
Lau Kar-leung.
You've got Sammo Hung, the old classics are all there. So the reason why, obviously, Paul and I are excited because we used to own those movies on VHS.
VHS, yeah.
And, well, recently I had to sell my VHS collection because I needed more space. And
you didn't have to.
I had to. And back to the point of owning VHS, that's one thing I miss, when you choose a film like, for example, Monsters of Man. You can't just pick up the cover at local blockbusters and read the back and get informed. Sometimes I find the streaming services, they're lacking information. So that's why we do the Watchmen for you. So that's one step into rediscovering, obviously, the Hong Kong and Asian action cinema genre, but also just a hint that dig deep and spend the time researching, because you'd be very surprised. Very quickly, The Chinese Ghost Story is a lovely little kind of drama stroke kind of fantasy story.
The comedy is wonderful.
Comedy is wonderful. So Leslie Chung is a clerk, a debt collector, but he has no money to stay in a hotel, and the local villagers send him to a temple. He doesn't know, but they do know that the temple is haunted by a ghost, Zhou Wang, who is there to charm him like a succubus so that he can be devoured by a demon. He's saved by a Taoist monk played by Wu-Ma, and he's going to try and decide whether he's going to help the monk kill the demon, but also kill the ghost, Zhou Wang, because he has fallen in love with her. That's it. And it's just superbly filmed. Tsui Hark was behind, obviously, the production. And I've just quickly come my notes to be sure. Ching Tsung Song was the director. He won't be known to the national audiences, but please understand, the large majority of Hong Kong movies you may know of, I've seen, he's either been a stuntman, he's been helping the choreography, he's been directing, or he's had a role to play. He's a massive, massive contribution to the genre. Anyway, that's that bit done. What about your final choice then for us today?
All right, we are going back to Netflix.
Okay.
Got a movie here that I was absolutely blown away by. It is a true story, and this is one of those complete under-the-radar films. Every single person I talk to about this movie hasn't seen it or heard of it. It's The Siege of Jadotville, with Jamie Dornan from 50 Shades fame. He's really the only main star in it, except for Mark Strong, who has a small cameo in it as kind of an English.
Mark Strong.
He's brilliant. He's got hair in this one. Who knew? But he's fantastic. So a small role. He plays kind of a smarmy politician as such. But basically the premise of the story, which is true, is in 1961 in the Congo, you had areas that were being mined for uranium, for nuclear missiles. So you had a lot of governments in the world that had their finger in the political landscape of Africa and the Congo. You had the diamond mines, you had other things going on. So a lot of these areas had their own militia or mercenary armies to protect the warlords and the interests of the government. In amongst that, you've got the UN peacekeepers. So Jamie Dornan plays a real-life character, Pat Quinlan. I will just double-check on that, Quinlan, so I don't get it wrong. He was an officer in the Irish army. He was a UN peacekeeper, but he was untested. He'd never really been in battle as such. But as far as the film goes, he was very well read in battle tactics and would study Romans, tactics from Caesar and the armies and things like that. And he takes a brand new bunch of recruits, new lads out of 6 weeks basic training, Irish lads, to the Congo, and they're stationed at this tiny little town, which is essentially a crossroads with a couple of little houses on it called Jadotville. And this is right on the border of one of these areas that is protected by seasoned Belgian and French mercenaries. And essentially they weren't welcome there. The warlords did not want the UN poking their nose into their business. So it kicks off. It kicks off big time. It's a true story of these lads, untested, untried, with an untested commander, standing their ground, outnumbered 10-1 against 1,000 seasoned mercenaries. And it is amazing from start to finish. And it took till, this was 1961, it took till 2016 for these people, these soldiers, to be recognized for their bravery and heroism during this conflict. It is filmed by a first-time filmmaker, 𝗏𝗏𝗪𝗏, who has done a lot of music videos and things like that for YouTube and U2 and people like that. But I believe this is his first film. It might even be his only film, but man, he's done it well. The action's fantastic. The characters are fantastic. And a little nod to Conor Quinlan, who is the grandson of the real Pat Quinlan, who was actually in the movie as well, which is fantastic. And some of the weapons that were used in the film were sourced in the Congo, and when they've checked the serial numbers, they were the actual weapons used at this conflict, at this battle. So it's brilliant. Please, please, please give it a watch.
Oh, thanks for that. That's exactly what Watchmen is all about, and discovering those little gems that you could have missed. That's one thing about the streaming services, that it's so rich in content. Sometimes you need something like this to help you out. Right, final selection for me to close on the Watchmen is something that people will know, the fans will be aware of the announcement of season 11 of The Walking Dead, the beginning of the end. They are promising that this is the final one, which I think is a little sad, something that's been running for 12 years now, with little caveat that the pandemic has slowed production down across so many other projects. They are promising 24 episodes, Paul. So that's 8 times 3. So we're going to have 8, then a break, as they've done before, then 8 and 8. And this is going to be, essentially the finale of overall finale. Now, granted, for many fans of, the zombie genre, their patience and loyalty has been tested for many years. For me, I can't get enough. I watch it, even though some of the main characters are no longer with us, or are they?
Are you fully caught up?
Fully caught up, yeah. For me, Daryl, Maggie, all of them were important to me as much as Rick and the others. Now, why am I bringing this up is because I first discovered that Walking Dead was on Amazon Prime. You look it up, you have to pay for the season. And I'm a binger, so I've got to wait a moment. And then out of nowhere, I discovered that it's on Disney Plus. I mean, of all channels, The Walking Dead,
I didn't know.
to be on Disney Plus, there's an interesting kind of juxtaposition. But then it makes sense when you realize that Disney, the big empire, also owns ABC, the producers and distributors of The Walking Dead. So actually, if you're not a Disney Plus subscriber just yet, and you were thinking of buying the Walking Dead season, do yourself a favor, subscribe to Disney Plus. You're going to get The Walking Dead for free or part of the subscription, and then all the amazing things that Disney Plus has to offer you, including What If from the little Marvel channels. So I'll say no more, apart from I'm super excited, but I'm going to wait for the first 8 to kind of be added on, and I can binge over a weekend.
Who's your favorite character?
Daryl.
Still?
Yeah, still to this day.
Negan? Not Negan?
Not
Negan's
Negan.
cool.
Negan's cool, and yes, there's been some redemption, but I think Daryl is more. I think how I might behave or become if we had the zombie apocalypse.
One little thing there, just off topic. I've just watched the last ever episode of Supernatural, where obviously Negan, Jeffrey Dean plays Sam and Dean's dad, and that's 15 seasons. They finally finished it. We watched the last episode last night.
For me, if something you enjoy thoroughly, there cannot be too many seasons. I mean, with respect, and I mean nothing by it, but people have been watching Coronation Street or EastEnders forever.
40, 50, 70 years.
And it's working for them. So each to their own. But for me, The Walking Dead has been just a great series, and the characters and the world is something that I can never get enough of. So there we are. However, it is now time to slow things down a little, take our seat, get rid of that popcorn on your chest, you little piglets. Stop kicking that chair, and let's move on to trailer talk.
Turn your Alrighty then, Pascal.
Very quickly, I want to say a quick hello to Joe Brand and Beverly Barton. I've just opened my phone. We are live. I'm just checking it, for the technical, but we also have you joining us. So big thank you for it. But what we're going to do now is play the trailer.
What have you got? What do you got?
Just watch this.
I'm excited.
Thomas? You seem particularly triggered right now. Can you tell me what happened?
I've had dreams that weren't just dreams. Am I crazy?
We don't use that word in here.
Hi.
Have we met?
One pill makes you larger, and one pill makes you small, and the ones that mother gives you don't do anything at all. Go ask Alice when she's 10 feet tall.
Time to fly.
And if you go chasing rabbits,
If you want the truth, Neo, you're going to have to follow me.
and you know you're going to fall.
The only thing that matters to you is still here. I know it's why you're still fighting and why you will never give up. You don't know me, no?
When logic and proportion have fallen, so be dead. And white knight is talking backwards, and the red queens are with her head. Remember what the Dharma said.
After all these years, to be going back to where it all started. Back to the Matrix.
Oh my God. Well, Agent Grey.
Yes.
What do you think? Are we talking about a box office success or a contender for the Razzies?
You know, when I first heard about this, it's kind of always that worry with such an iconic, classic, and much-loved movie is, do they even do it at all? Or do they leave it alone? You know, and The Matrix was one of my all-time favorite movies. So much so I even named my firstborn girl Trinity. You know, I loved everything about that film. And at first they were talking about a reboot, right? And you know,
And the TV series and everything. They spoke about everything.
yeah. The fact that they've brought back a lot of the original cast and the original Wachowski influence and direction. I'm positive. I think they're going to pull it off. I hope they're going to pull it off.
Yeah, me too. I mean, so this trailer that we just watched, you can live on replay, was released only 2 days ago at the time of recording this episode, which is quite special because normally we talk about something that people have seen or heard for a while. Now, the way it was done, because Roger and I looked at the marketing for the podcast that we run as well, and so we know that 24th of August there was a private screening of the trailer where people couldn't even take their phones with them or have anything, so they could just write about it. Then a week or so later, we had the teasers. The website I sent you, where you could choose the red pill or the blue pill.
That was brilliant.
And the teasers were amazing. And then literally 2 days later, the trailer that I watched over and over again. 2 reasons. A, because there's so much to take in, and we're going to go into the details, but that song.
Yeah. I mean, it's iconic already. It was perfect for that. But one thing about that red pill, blue pill teaser, if you haven't actually seen it, I didn't know till Pascal kind of, hey, watch this, dude. It starts at the beginning with, stop what you're doing. You think it is. And then it tells you the time. I watched it at 8:27. You think it is 8:27, but it's not. And it freaked me out. Every 2 minutes I would go back and watch it again. It's 8:30. This is great. It's so well made.
And what they've done, every time you watch a teaser, it's different. So you have some core scenes that are the same, but in between they change everything. So this trailer, you can watch it several times, because the music has been in my head now ever since the first time, from Jefferson Airplane. I think it's a modernized version of the 1967 classic. But the trailer is so incredibly rich that we're going to discuss it, and then I'm going to show you some stills, because one time at the very beginning, it goes so fast, I don't think you can take it in. What do you think the trailer is trying to tell us? I hope they don't spoil anything until the release, 22nd December, but is it a story about what if Mr. Anderson took the blue pill, and how would the story have evolved? Because essentially you can't escape your destiny.
Interesting.
Or is it directly following on from Revolution? Is that the last one, or Reloaded? Revolution is the last one, whereby he's taken back into the system.
Because him and Trinity died. So how does he get back into the system?
And essentially is released again as some kind of crazy experiment, because machines are just evil, so and so.
Is it the next reiteration? Because the architect told us there'd been 6 iterations. Is this automatically the next one? Is that why he doesn't remember his past? Or maybe he's getting little flashes. Who's the psychiatrist?
Yeah, quite.
Is the psychiatrist there to open up his memory of who he is, the one,
or to keep it under control?
Or is he there to control? Is it a machine's control? And the fact he's in blue, with blue glasses, blue pill, there's a lot of imagery there, leads you to kind of think that maybe he's on the side of the machines.
I've got a feeling that this is a film you can watch without having seen the other 3, although you should have watched the first 3.
Yeah.
For the character of Thomas Anderson, before he becomes Neo again, he's going to encounter the Oracle.
There's
perhaps for him,
the White Rabbit.
Perhaps for him for the first time, because the actress they're using, she has the same kind of warm and friendly smile. He's going to encounter, we're sure of it, a younger version of Morpheus. He's going to encounter Trinity.
Has that been confirmed?
It's not been confirmed. That's part of the many deliberation and the many YouTube videos and so on. So you've got all those little signals. So for the first time ever, we know more than Neo.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So what do we actually know? We know that obviously Keanu is back playing Neo. We know that Carrie-Anne Moss is back as Trinity. I believe the Merovingian is...
Fortunately, spoilers. That's one of the other annoying thing sometimes about IMDb, because they've listed all the cast.
Yep.
We know that's the case, even though we shouldn't really, because it's not part of the trailer. But I've got a theory about that.
Do we go into it? Is the time?
I think there is time. So I mentioned a moment ago that in the trailer, things do move, really super fast. So what I've done is I've gone back to the video and I've gone I've literally freeze framed every so often.
Let's do it.
So, for example, when he's with the psychiatrist and saying, and we have lots of flashes, you've got this image here.
Yep. So
and we think that's Neal.
Well, he's blinded, which he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we think that's Neal because, of course, when you have the close-up, you have then, we can tell, just make out the eyes have been damaged. And you've got all those awful creatures crossed between robots and crabs and
so he's being repaired.
So being repaired.
Yeah, definitely.
So is that, obviously the hint from the trailer. The next thing that we see...
Well, it is called Resurrection. The whole story of the first one was, very to do with Christ and the woman and resurrection. So it makes sense, right?
So we see a character that we think represents Morpheus, and whether that's Morpheus himself or that's the machine sending him or that's the resistance sending the program.
I believe the actor, he's got a very long name, 𝗬𝗂𝗶𝗶𝗁 II. I'm not really aware of him, but I believe he's put something out on social media, a picture of himself with two guns and just the word Morpheus. So is that him kind of, he's had the go ahead to say, I am playing a younger Morpheus or a reiteration of Morpheus.
That's right. And what is interesting is, and the movie will reveal who sent him and who's in control here. We just don't know. Then there's another one that flashes by very quickly, which is this incredible scene that suggests, the machines are even more advanced. So I think that takes place years later. It's more intricate. It's more, formidable, and the farming still continues of the humans. That's for sure. The one that I think people, went a little crazy was this one. So, is this, a memory when he first came out, or is this actually him freeing himself for a second time? Yeah.
There is an image somewhere of Carrie-Anne Moss as well, isn't there? Being freed or
that's right, or
coming out
in the trailer, we believe so. And then the final one that flashes by that had some importance is obviously this one here. And I do believe, and if you think about the look, if you think about the ring and so on, this could be the Merovingian who actually is the puppet master in all this, because you had some element of control when we first met him in the previous, and I've got a feeling he wants to use Neal for his own advantages.
Running the underground. Wow. So predictions
in terms of
Razzies or
no. I think that this may be the movie to get people back into theaters, because they were hoping it could have been a James Bond movie. They were hoping for Tenet actually to be that. They've been trying to get essentially at least a balancing act between streaming and going there in person. I think this is going to be the Christmas movie for families and fans.
To be fair, I have not been to the cinema since before the whole world went crazy. And I would like to see this one on the big screen. Visually, it's stunning. I mean, from the imagery as well, the trailer shows a lot of imagery we've seen previously in the other films. So there's the rooftop, there's inside the hotel, there's the black cat, there's Alice in Wonderland, the rabbit. So how they tie that in, I'm very, very interested to see. I'm engaged in the whole mythology of this world they live in. I think it's going to be good.
It's going to be good, and
Keanu's in it. It'll be good.
and more importantly, you say many reasons to be confident is because the cast, the creators are back, and they're going to evolve the story, and they're going to show us really what they're capable of. It's going to be amazing. A quick shout out to Céline Gell, who's joining us from Australia as well. Big thank you for joining the show live. It's appreciated. Now, it is time, viewers and listeners, for you to know a bit more about your hosts as we move on to the big question.
I always get worried.
All right.
Okay, right. I'm going to go first this time. Pascal.
So I am sitting in the imaginary chair of interrogation.
You are in the chair of interrogation when we find out what makes him tick. I dread to think. I really do. Okay, so you get a phone call from Steven Spielberg.
Oh my God.
And see what I did there? Steven Spielberg says, Pascal, I want you to be the lead actor in my next movie. It's going to be a big budget remake.
God, I need to drink there.
Of Inspector Clouseau. Don't spit. Of Inspector Clouseau, and you are going to be the main character.
I'm going to be Inspector Clouseau.
You are going to be Clouseau.
This is fine.
So, what we want to know, the question. First of all, how would you prepare for the role of Clouseau?
Well, what I would do, two things. I would watch all the Black Edwards movie again.
Would you watch the one with this Clouseau?
Oh, no, not... I'm not sure I love Steve Martin. It'd have to be,
Okay,
the original. Right. I would watch all of them. I would buy the same clothes and wear them daily and start to walk and talk the same way. I would also attack a castle with a moat.
What do you mean start to talk the same way? Come on.
Well, it has a little, yes,
Get
skater.
Okay.
So I would move to Paris, of course, in the luxurious apartment. But importantly, as part of my training, I would try and attack a castle with a moat and try the different ways in which to do so.
All right. And what new dimension would you bring to the Clouseau character that hasn't been done before? Tough one, right?
Tough one, because I've explored many. I mean, he's a very clumsy lover. We know that. He's a clumsy everything.
Not saying anything.
So, which means I would have to work very hard on that bit. So it would be sort of character. I think one thing we haven't seen him do, actually, is be really outside of his comfort zone by being in a foreign country. So it's more or less stayed in and around, that kind of Western civilization or culture. Send him somewhere very remote where he doesn't even speak the language, is a bit lost. A bit like they did in France with is a character called OSS 117, played by Dujardin. It's like a spoof on James Bond,
right?
And he's just as hapless, and he goes into North Africa and then understand the culture.
So where would you take him?
I think to keep it, actually, I would take him to an old French colony. So it has to be North Africa or the Congo.
Awesome.
And then you just fish out of water.
All right. Here we go.
Your big question, Monsieur Gray, is as follows. Bear in mind that we just mentioned the final season of The Walking Dead.
Yep.
If you were to survive a zombie apocalypse, as you know, it's not if you will survive. You will survive the zombie apocalypse. Which weapon would you use apart from a firearm? Because of course, if you make too much noise, they're going to get you. So, what weapon would you use to defend yourself?
Well, as Pascal knows, being a martial artist, I've trained with Japanese katana and sword for quite a long time. So, the practical side of me is, I'd pick up a sword or two swords. I do have my own swords. But the non-practical and kind of fun side of me, I think I'd like to pick up a great big scythe, like a death, death scythe, big, old, pointy ones that go this way. I think that would be super cool. I mean, you could stab them through the heads, you can lop the heads off, you could take an arm and arm, legs from underneath them, and then thump, into the chest.
Yeah.
And if we could make a point on the bottom end, stab, that would be it. That would be me, scythe.
I like it a lot. I mean, I think you've got to be careful. It's no weapon that could just, get stuck into the body. So I think anything that is blunt, like a hammer or mace and so on, to me is very, very dodgy. So I thought about it because you have to think about those things clearly.
You do.
You just never know. You've got to be prepared. Sometimes I have this conversation with Denise, and I don't think she's prepared. I don't think she's thought about it as much as I have.
No, it's going to happen. I mean, I think he's patient zero, so it is going to happen. You got to think about it.
I probably would have the katana as well as a spear.
Oh, you can have more than one.
Because I am deep down, I don't like to get dirty too much, so I want to keep the zombies at a distance. So I think a proper good spear, like a proper Spartan kind of spear, that you could really do some damage at a great distance. And then if they get a bit closer, move to katana, and eventually probably, the kind of big Rambo kind knife.
Certainly have multiple weapons, but that's one thing with all of these zombie apocalypse stories. Z Nation, which is really good, Black Summer, Walking Dead, all of this stuff. None of them seem to dress well for the zombie apocalypse. I mean, I'd have like some kind of neck protection. I'd have a motorbike crash helmet on, because that's where they always get bit. There'd be gauntlets, and definitely I'd fashion some kind of gauntlet with a blade on there. Boom, boom. So if they're going to bite at you, leather jackets, motorbike protection that you can find in a store pretty easily. So that if you get pinned down to 5 zombies, it's just like bite away. Their rotten little teeth that drop out, and they're not going to do any harm. They don't think of this.
They don't think of it. You have to have essentially outdoor wear. So because if you've been in combat against a zombie, you're going to have guts. You're going to have kind of rotten blood and so on.
Yeah, bacteria.
So what you need to do is somewhere you can get changed before you get into the house.
So shower.
Yeah.
Clothes off.
Because there's one thing that I wouldn't cope well with in the zombie apocalypse is being a bit dirty and
he's French.
Things like this, So just very quickly before we close on the big question, my friend Celine Jones saying that I remember you having the same outfit as the Inspector Clouseau back in the days. So just to be clear, it was Highlander. When I had the raincoat.
He's not
and everything.
that cool.
I was trying to be like Christophe Lambert in Highlander, not Inspector Clouseau.
I remember the first time we met, I was like, "Hey, you talk funny. Where you from?" And he went, "All kinds of different places."
Excellent.
Highlander reference.
So what we've learned is that it is important to be ready for the zombie apocalypse, and you've had expert advice from Paul, and that if you want to star in the next Spielberg movie, you have to be a useless, hapless French detective. Well, with that in mind...
With that, it is time to jump in the DeLorean of dreams and travel back in time.
So in this segment, Paul and I go back in time and we just delve into the vault of movie memories and we pick something from the past. Now, for episode 1, we went for the year of our birth, so 69 and 74 respectively, and we've decided to go for the early 80s. So anything between 80 to 85, we were allowed to pick a movie to kind of talk about and reminisce. To decide who's going to go first, there's only one thing that we can do, which is to, not that.
Oh, okay.
Which is to roll the almighty D20.
Oh, Lord, I'm going to lose.
So, starting with you.
I suck at this. Yeah, Dungeon Master Pascal always wins. I got a 6.
That's a 6. So, let's have a look. And that's a 4.
In your face, Pascal.
All right. So, back in time selection for you, Monsieur Gray. What have you got for us?
So, during the very early 80s, sword and sorcery, hence the D20, sword and sorcery and fantasy movies were huge, and the biggest one we'll not mention yet, I'm sure we're going to. This was one of the ones that came on its coattails, 1982, and one of my personal guilty pleasure favorite movies, The Beastmaster, starring Mark Singer from V, the original V, and wow, what a film! I'm afraid at the time in this country, in the UK, we got the edited PG version.
You used to get a lot of edited version. You couldn't even watch the Bruce Lee movie in its entirety.
Star Trek, they even banned BBC banned a lot of Star Trek episodes. But anyway, we got the edited PG version, and still being a child at the time, the relationship between the Beastmaster, who can talk to, communicate, and control animals, was just wonderful. And they made it more kiddie friendly. So in this film, he has a Black Panther, which was really a tiger, dyed black, that he's walking around with. That's his best friend. He's got some ferrets or polecats called Kodo and Podo, and they're kind of the mischievous little characters that can go and steal things for him. Obviously, the panther is the muscle, and he's got an eagle, which is, you know, the eyes. And he goes on his adventures to for vengeance because his adopted father was killed. But there's also this whole subplot of the fact that he's the son of a king who is destined to kill, you know, the evil priest, and that's why he was taken to the adopted family in the first place, to keep him alive. And for a film that was a PG, it was still dark. It was still very, very dark. It had these winged devourer creatures, which
they really were freaky. Yeah.
Yeah, there's this scene where kind of these winged creatures with big bat wings, and
just coming,
kind of faces that you don't see much, as just the eyes. And if you get too close to them, they'll wrap you in the wings, and all that drops out the bottom is some goo and some bones. And it was wonderfully creepy in the right way, that, you know, the twisted little young Paul was like, that's great. It's scary, there's decent action in it, and Mark Singer was amazing. The animals were amazing. It was always one of those kind of superhero powers that I would have loved to have as well. Tanya Roberts, I believe.
That's right. Yes. So
View to a Kill,
as part of the research, you know, there's a couple of things that I can share with you. So you know, they both looked in fine shape. I mean this sincerely. Like, Mark must have trained like a lot.
He was fit
to get that, and she added obviously the lot of interest and the sense of you know, jeopardy and so on. But what I loved about this era is, you know, the time of doing heroic fantasy, which they don't do as much. That I think it's interesting to observe. But also, it was just that late 70s to mid 80s, and afterwards it went a little too 80s. It went too like kind of pop, you know, music and that kind of things. Because the other thing that with those movies, what they did do very well is the artworks. I found this for you as well. This artwork.
Man,
look at this.
I would have that poster on the wall. I would have the T-shirt.
Just incredible, you know, the way that this would have been hand painted by an artist, inspired by the work of Frazetta and all the others. But you don't get that anymore. And so I think there's an edge where it was coming out of the pulp fiction, literally.
It was based on a series of books, definitely. The author, I believe, wasn't particularly happy because the director set it in kind of the Bronze Age,
right?
And the author originally had it in a futuristic age, and because of that, you know, she kind of walked away and didn't want anything to do with it, which is a shame. But it's based on novels actually, and it's just wonderful. I mean, Tanya Roberts, she got the part, but Demi Moore actually went.
Okay.
She auditioned multiple times for the part, and the director wanted Demi Moore, and the producers said no. I mean, dude, you made a mistake there. But Rip Torn as the bad guy, who is awesome. I mean, if you've seen Rip Torn in Dodgeball, he's brilliant in everything he's in, you know, and in this he's just like truly one-dimensionally evil, which takes nothing away from his performance. He's just brilliant, and he's got this funny kind of hooked prosthetic nose that makes him look even more evil. But just having a name like Rip Torn, it's great. I mean, what would you call yourself if you had to have a name like Rip Torn? Mine would be Soggy Wet. It's brilliant.
Yeah, sorry, I'm too much about personal branding. I just skip my name. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but oh man, everybody in it. John Amos plays Seth, and he's better known from Coming to America as Mr. McDowell. And
he must be immortal, that guy. Sure, because he's been around for absolutely forever. What is interesting is Beastmaster. There's three films.
Yeah, the Eye of Abraxas is one of them, I think. Through the Portal of Time is the second one.
And it has a very strong fan base, so much so that it gets re-released.
It's a TV series too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a Canadian TV series. They did 3 series.
I'm not surprised.
It's so bad, it's but it's big. It's popular.
So for you, if you wanted to watch the full version, perhaps you have already, but the Blu-ray box set is out, because the fan are just really.
Will rebuy it.
I'm not surprised. I would as well. Oh, what a fine choice! Well done. That brings back so many memories of watching it. Go on.
One little trivia on this. Get my notes. Apparently, the eagle refused to fly. So what they would do was take it up into a hot air balloon and drop it.
Force him to fly.
And then basically film it. So this eagle's dropping like a stone.
I'm not flying.
No.
I suppose I should really.
Yeah. So that's how they got it. And the other one was, the Black Panther was dyed black, so literally they had to re-dye it almost every scene because the dye would rub off when it was rubbing its nose and you could see its stripes. But one thing, I think on the first day of filming, Mark Singer wasn't introduced to the bear in the bear scene early because it had escaped and attacked its handler and put its handler in hospital. So the early days of filming movies, anything but safe. There you go.
No problem at all. Thank you again. Really fine choice. So actually, I've gone for a very, very similar type of film, one that means a lot to me, to my family and so on, because when we were playing Dungeons and Dragons and we used to run the role-playing game club, that movie was on all of the time. That and the music. I had the cassette actually that I used to play. So 𝗏𝗏 𝗪𝗏𝗏 will need no introduction to many people, but a film made in 1982 that really, really stand the test of time. I think it belongs alongside the Beastmaster and a few others of that late 70s, early 80s.
It's the one. It's
the
number one.
And they've tried and they've not been able to equal it. I think it was just a convergence of everything. The back and forth between John Milius and Oliver Stone with the script, I think worked well. The production, De Laurentiis prepared to put piles of money. All Schwarzenegger believing that this was the character he was born to play. And the supporting cast, I think, is really, really important. And I think also a film where John Milius could tell the story really well. I think it was absolutely perfect to have the narrator, Mikael, from the get-go, when he tells you that this takes place between the time when the oceans drank Atlantis and the rise of the sons of Arius. And on to this, Conan, destined to be a jewel crown of Apollonia upon the troubled brow. Do you know? And it carries on. You've got the music. You've got
and his voice is just fantastic.
Hitting the bits of metals. And then when he's finished telling you that, let me tell you the days of high adventure, and then boom, it goes.
Horses.
Basil Polidoris music, and so it goes on. And look at the artwork. I mean, it's just absolutely stunning. And this I carried on. Now, interestingly, people will know this is based, obviously, on a series of books. Very short series. It's been explained upon by other writers. This was written in the 1930s. And very nearly wasn't made popular because it was just kind of shoehorned into something called Weird Tales, and which was mostly around sci-fi, UFOs and aliens and whatever.
John Carter and things like that.
And that was kind of this. But luckily, people picked it up much later on. Just as a bit of a trivia for our friends, I'm just going to close that poster. But some time ago, I got a present from my dear friend here, Paul. I'm going to show you because he knows I'm a bit of a collector. And just making sure that it doesn't get too bright. This is something that you can tell I've left it in the plastic because it's so. But in terms of my collection, I even have a very, very old, comic book from the 80s that I had in France. Look at the artwork. I'm going to show you this one because it's probably more in line with the Conan that we know. Look at this artwork. Isn't that stunning? So when I used to prepare stories and scenarios for the days of role-playing games, I would put the music on, or I would watch the film and be just so inspired that I could prepare the next Dungeons and Dragons, or in my case, I used to play Middle-earth role-playing. And as I introduced you to the games as well, I love the kind of the Baroque world of Conan, that proper sword and sorcery, something very dark. I mean, in fact, Conan is a dark movie.
Yeah, it's not a kid's movie.
It's not a family movie. You can watch that with your mum while she meets the witch, or when there's the orgy in Mount Doom. That's a little tricky.
With the snake.
Oh man,
I loved it.
part of the research as well for today, I found even this artwork, which, oh, sorry, that's yours again. So if we go back to Conan, that's the next one here, you know, that's things like this.
That's brilliant.
Brilliant, isn't it? So again, the inspiration for artists and more. And if you look at this poster, probably done by a fan or commissioned by somebody, the details about the knowledge of the story and the character is just absolutely amazing. But he's been interviewed many times, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he does feel that, you know, this was the role for him. I just can't think of anybody else that could play that role.
Not at that time. Not at that time, for sure. I mean, you know, a lot of actors are vying for roles, and I believe, you know, Schwarzenegger vied for the Judge Dredd role that Sylvester Stallone got, and you could see it. You could see them both could do Dredd and what have you, but I can't see Stallone as Conan. It just, I don't see anybody that could have filled his shoes. And the fact that he did have an accent and he did have that way of speaking that is atypically Arnold, especially at that time, made the character more, you know, having just an outright American accent maybe wouldn't have worked so well. And you know, they had the series, didn't they, with Ralph Muller?
Yeah. But
again,
again,
Ralph Muller's
it's fine, but it was targeting families,
guy,
and I don't think this is not. I mean, the books, the graphic novels, everything. There's nothing in there for. It's not family entertainment.
Hang on. What about Dolph? Big Dolph, maybe. It's the only person I can think of that maybe could have done a good job.
But different physique,
Dolph
because
Lundgren?
even from the graphic novels and so on, you have to be wide as well as tall. But let's talk about, just for a moment, because of course it's important, Valeria and Subotai.
Yes.
I mean, you know, it's important for them to be part of the story. In fact, she saves him twice. In fact, you know, once from the
snaky arrow, snaky arrow.
Once from the spirits, and once obviously when he's about to die. And do you want to live forever? It's a movie that I watch once or twice a year easily. The Blu-ray has all the deleted scenes as well, and all the making of and the history behind it. Now, question for you.
Subotai was good as well, though. He's a good little fighter, brilliant character. You really warm to him, and for all Conan is, you know, the unstoppable Conan, this other guy could handle himself, and it was nice to have another character in that wasn't, you know, didn't have to be saved. He could stick up for himself.
Indeed,
and brilliant.
Final Battle of the Mound is perfect for that. Do you have a favorite scene?
There is so many. It's hard, and even Conan the Destroyer, which, you know, universally people don't think of it as well as a barbarian. I absolutely love them both. I think if I had to pick a favorite Conan physique, I'd say Destroyer. Oh, sorry, a favorite Arnold physique of any film, I would say Destroyer was perfect, because he'd lost some size and was more athletic in that one, and just had that, you know, chiseled shape. But I think my favorite scene, I don't know why, but I always go back to the scene where he's pushing the wheel. You know, and he's got that big groove in the floor where, you know, slowly over time, everybody else pushing this giant wheel round has died or just been taken away, and he's left by himself. And there's just this back, this broad back that seems to be, you know, as wide as a mountain, and the hair and the arms up against this, and it's just dump, you know, that trudging kind of.
And the story goes that at the premiere, when obviously he kind of lifts his head and he's revealed, the crowd was just cheering. Because obviously he had a strong fan base around bodybuilders and bikers.
Yeah,
and so on.
I don't know what it is about that, but it says so much about who he is that, you know, regardless whatever happens, his character is so doggedly determined that he will just take one step after the next, and you know that nothing is going to break that guy down. Nothing. And I love that. I love that scene.
Yeah. My scene is when he discovers the sword of chrome. I think for me, it represents everything that I love about, you know, this style of film, but also the pleasure of playing role-playing games.
The Riddle of Steel.
The discovery of, you know, the lost treasures. So he's chased by the dogs, who, by the way, we know caught him and caused him to have stitches and so on. He falls into this cave. And interestingly, the early version of Conan, where I was watching it on TV, one VHS, that scene is very dark and you can't see it very well. But once you watch it on Blu-ray, oh my God, you can see the set design, you can see what they've done there. And I think the whole scene about the discovery of the of that sword and the music as well is very, very good in that scene. It's just wonderful. But the whole film is great. So very, very quickly, would you like them to do, as promised from Forever Now, King Conan?
King Conan.
Or shall we leave it?
If Arnold was to do it, depending on who the director is, because, you know, that could make or break, and I'd give him a chance. Yeah, I would. I've been itching and waiting for forever for them to release the fact that they're going to do King Conan. And I think Arnold still has enough about him, even at his age, to be in relatively good shape and to look the part and to act the part and to bring that persona of the guy you just do not want to mess with back, but to wear the crown on a troubled brow. I mean, he has the acting chops now and much more experience about him. And I think it would be amazing if you have the right team behind him. I'd love to see it.
Yeah. I'm sure all the fans and of you know, that kind of sword and sorcery and heroic fantasy would as well. Well, do you know, I love this segment. It always is a pleasure to go down memory lane and just to kind of, you know, take us down this, because ultimately we're not fans just because of the last few months or few years. It's from the childhood, isn't it?
Yeah. I grew up watching, you know, VHS movies that my dad would borrow from the local video shop because he knew the guy. He knew the guy, and he'd bring home, you know, anything new that was released. He'd always bring home 2 or 3 of these VHS tapes, and, you know, invariably it was a lot of kung fu movies, a lot of horror movies, a lot of things that I shouldn't have been watching but would sneak and maybe watch them when I shouldn't have. And Conan was one of them. I watched them as a kid, and a lot of the darker aspects and things like that just went straight over my head completely. And it was like, yeah, this dude's got a sword. Whoa, you know. And we've watched this stuff forever, and I would go outside and spend all of my waking hours copying Jackie Chan's moves outside by myself up against the tree. Or I'd have my Conan sword, which was a stick that I wrapped string around the handle. It was a big, thick stick, because Conan had a big sword, you know. And I would play Conan, and oh man, it influenced me right the way through my life. Still does.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, viewers and listeners, it is time for you to now take part in our monthly quiz.
So guys, as you saw by the sting, it's time to riddle me this, riddle me that. Who's afraid of the big black bat?
We're going to ask you 3 questions each. That's 6 in total. Yes, you are keeping up. 1 question in turn. This is episode number 2. So we thought as a theme, we would use number 2, that maybe to talk about sequels, maybe to talk about duets, maybe something to do with pairing people together. We shall see. We're going to ask you those 6 questions. We'll give you a moment to think about your answers. You can leave them in the comments, or you can send them to us a bit later. I'm also going to try and answer Paul's questions and vice versa, and see if we can have fun with films. Over to you.
Okay, so this one.
Question number 1.
Our theme. James Bond. Obviously, we know he is 00, number 2. That's where we get our 00 theme from. We know he's 007. So, how many kills does James Bond need to get his 00 active status? And this was answered in the book Casino Royale and the film Casino Royale.
Okay, thank you very much. My first question is about James Cameron, famous director, who has directed famous sequels such as Aliens and Terminator 2. You could argue sequels to his own work, but actually he did direct a sequel before that. What is the title of a sequel early in his career directed by James Cameron.
Okay. In Twins, Arnold Schwarzenegger, we've been talking about him, comes to America and is very, very new to the culture and doesn't understand how things work in his character in Twins. But there was another film with Arnold Schwarzenegger in the same year, 1988, where he played another character that comes to America and doesn't understand the culture. What is that film?
Ooh. Okay. Question number 2 for me. The movie Double Impact, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. Can you please give me the name of the twins, interestingly? I need first name and surname to get the full point. So Jean-Claude Van Damme had 2 roles. It was actually well. It's one of my guilty pleasures.
It is
I love
a great film. I love it.
And what were the names of the twins? One living in Hong Kong, one living in Los Angeles. Final question from you.
Final question from me. As anybody that knows me know, I am a huge Star Trek fan. And we have the sequel to the original Star Trek movie, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. And Khan Noonien Singh, played by Ricardo Montalban from Fantasy Island, reprised his character of Khan from an original Star Trek episode. What was the name of that Star Trek episode? Khan Noonien Singh.
That's hard, isn't it?
No.
Oh, is it not?
No.
Okay. If you know Star Trek.
My friend Scott Stevens will know this one. Hi, Scott.
All right. Final question to make it 6. The Godfather Part 2 is said to be the best sequels of all times. Okay. Right. Winning 6 Oscars, by the way. In what year was The Godfather Part 2 released?
I think that's a tough one.
I will give you a hint. Part 1 was released in 72. So I'll give you a bit of a help.
Yeah, but no Googling.
No Googling. All right, these are your 6 questions. Just to give you a bit of time to think it through and ask friends and not Google, we're going to play this for you just to kind of give you something to think about. I love this. So, Ashley, would you be the one to pull that table and make a racket? Or would you do something a bit different?
I'd either take the chair to the table.
Yeah.
I think I'd just go over and kneel next to the table and write on the table.
I think I would probably do that. Or I've been thinking about it as you have to. Next to him, there seems to be some form of ashtray, so I would probably turn it upside down and maybe. But I would try certainly a bit of discretion. All right. So I hope you've enjoyed.
Rip Torn.
Yes.
Who we've just been talking about is in that.
He is as well.
Men in Black as Z too.
Yeah. So I hope you've had a chance to think about the questions. Question number 1, and I'll try and answer it.
Yes, Bond. How many kills does Bond need to get his 007 status?
I don't know why. I think it's 5.
5 kills? Mm-hmm. 5 kills. The answer is 2.
2.
The clue is in the 007.
I see.
The fact that 2 sequels is our theme for today.
That's very impressive. All right.
I'm good.
Do you remember the sequel directed by James Cameron early in his career.
Oh my lord! I've got to. I think I know this one, but it's the only one. I think it's Piranha 2. Is that correct?
It is correct.
Yes.
The Spawning.
It's a great movie.
I believe, and I could be wrong, that it's a Roger Corman production, but
Yeah.
memory could be failing
I
me.
believe so.
All right, question number 2 from you.
Okay, the second one about kind of twins. Arnold Schwarzenegger plays a role of somebody new to America, doesn't know the culture. In the same year, he also played another character that goes to the US and he doesn't understand the culture. What was the film?
I didn't know it was that year, but only because you described the story. The only one that comes to mind is Red Heat.
Exactly, well done. 1988, both released in the same year.
She was busy.
I was talking to Pascal about this earlier on, a little bit of trivia about twins. Arnold and Danny, because of budgetary constraints, agreed to take a percentage of the profits of twins and take less of a wage. And Arnold made more money from Twins than any other movie, any of the Terminator movies. And he says it's the best business decision he's ever made. The film was that big.
Wow, excellent. A quick hello to Jenny Weatherburn as well as watching us live. Really nice to have you with us. Question number 2 from me. Double Impact. Jean-Claude Van Damme playing twins. What are their names? First name and surname to get the full points.
I can't remember the surname. It's Chad and Alex, I believe, but I can't remember the surname.
Wagner.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's
Do I
fine.
get half a point?
You have a point. Yeah, you get half a point. Okay, your third question.
So in The Wrath of Khan, and Khan, you know Khan?
Yeah, I know Khan.
The monologue. He tasks me, and I shall have him. I'll chase him to the very moons of Nibia, and round the Antares maelstrom, and round perdition's flames before I give him up. I mean, it's just one of the iconic cinema scenes of all time. So Khan Noonien Singh, played by Ricardo Montalban, was in an earlier Star Trek original series episode. What was the name of said episode?
I do not know.
Space Seed.
Space
Seed. Please look it up and watch it.
Okay.
Brilliant.
The Godfather Part 2, winner of 6 Oscars, which is the sequels won the most Oscars, and according to 𝗧𝗵𝗵 from Empire and onwards, the best sequel of all times. What year?
I don't know. I'm going to guess. I'm going to say 76.
74.
74.
2 years after the first one.
Birth year, should I know?
Film fans and completists said, if you want to watch The Godfather, you want to watch Part 1 and 2 almost in one sitting. That's a tough going because Part 2 is 3 hours and 20 minutes, which is part of Francis Ford Coppola kind of early habits of breaking rules and traditions by making movies extremely long, which used to annoy theatre owners because they couldn't charge people double the money to watch a film. But of course, they were losing money that day because they couldn't keep changing and rotating.
They can only get so many shows, right? Yeah.
Super. Sadly, this is the end of episode 2 of our monthly video magazine, Fun with Films. The September 2021 kind of edition. Well, thank you very much, Paul. It's been thoroughly enjoyable, and thank you, viewers and listeners, for your amazing support. Can I suggest that we are enjoying it so much, we have so much fun, that we're going to come back next month?
Yeah, we could do this all day, clearly. Your ears are probably bleeding by now. We are going to do this every month. We're going to carry on with this format, but we're also, as Pascal said earlier on, we're going to go into some short, little, in-depth, 10-minute sessions and maybe some half-hour sessions too. So if there is anything that you want us to do, to talk about specifically, please put it in the comments below. And bearing in mind my wonderful Khan monologue, I think a good addition to the show would be a little competition, a monologue competition where you could pick maybe, the Jaws scene monologue or Blade Runner, Rutger Hauer's monologue, and you could see which one's the best. You guys could vote, see who does it the best. If it's a 𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏 monologue, he would do it really well.
Talking of which, before we bring down the curtain to this episode, do you want to show your masterpiece again? This is a man that does not use computers much, and actually very, very impressed with the montage, as they say where I come from.
Thank you.
That picture from 𝗬𝗵𝗲 is so funny.
This is the extent of the technical thing that I do with this whole show. Pascal does absolutely everything else. I kind of print something off on a computer.
Okay. Well, listen, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us in our celebration of all things cinema and filmmaking. This is our long-form content once a month, because essentially Paul and I would do that normally.
Yep.
That's what we do. So we thought it would be a pleasure to share that with you. Paul, thanks again for being an amazing co-host.
You're welcome, and thank you, Pascal, for inviting me along.
No problem. So it is goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from him. So, Pascal, what's your philosophy on life?
Crush your enemies. See them driven before you and hear the lamentation of the women. Oh, I got chills there.